Welcome to the Comic Binge. I am one of your hosts, Paul Herman, and today we are talking about the very, you could say, very infamous The Crow, a movie, a comic book. What exactly is it? That's kind of the thing we got to figure this out. So it is something we are still trying to figure out. I think as far as what exactly is The Crow, and I can't wait to talk about it because this is a comic I'll explain a lot about, but I almost feel it's almost forgotten to an extent. So I'll get into that more in a second. But anyway, if you haven't already, go and please like the channel, subscribe, etc. Yeah, I hate saying this stuff at the beginning, but you got to do it because the thing is, people can't discover the show unless you like the video, unless you comment or whatever. So please like the video, subscribe, all that jazz. It helps the channel out a lot, get exposure, and the whole channel exists for the sole purpose of getting comic books out to the masses in some form or another. So it is one of those things where I just have to not hate begging, but I gotta beg. So anyway, yeah, today I will eventually be joined by my other co-host, Javi Trujillo, aka El Corazon, but he is on his way on the show eventually here in a second. But in the meantime, I will be taking over. I was hoping to get Sketchcraft, aka Rob, on the show, but he was going to see Nightmare Before Christmas and some kind of interactive theater experience. That's pretty freaking cool. So I said, yeah, man, do your thing. Because that's pretty dope. So, but yeah, I will be taking over for a short period of time here for a second. Talk about The Crow until Javi gets here. Chris couldn't make it, so the Reverend is not here today. Oh well, Reverend, love you as always. We meant to have the show out last week, but I had some things show up, which was not cool. But I had to take care of business, you could say. So, at any rate, yeah, today, usually for the month of October for the Comic Binge, I usually like to try to have some, form or another Halloween themed episodes because it's a lot of fun to do that usually. And it's one of those things where I just like to have fun talking about, spooky comic books or whatever. And this month just didn't really materialize as much as I wanted to. I wanted to have one extra show, but it didn't really happen that way. But it was a Javi, when he'll eventually show up here in a second, he kind of brought up The Crow to me. And I thought that was a brilliant thing because honestly, The Crow is one of those, I feel, comic books that almost gets forgotten. Now, if you're a hardcore comic book person, you're probably yelling, going, "Phew, how dare you say that? Crow's blah, blah, blah." Yes, I understand The Crow is definitely a important part of comic book, I think, culture in the 90s, based upon it's an R-rated, comic book adaptation. And it was the first of what, ahead of its time, you could say. But as a comic book fan, even I forgot it was based off a comic book. It wasn't until I bought the DVD years and years later, after it come out in 94. So like probably talking about like 2005, 6-ish, maybe even. I had no idea. I had totally forgotten that The Crow was even a comic book. And it's one of those things where I was kind of surprised when I was watching the special features. I went, oh yeah, it's based off a comic book. And, The Crow obviously has a lot. Well, I'll probably save a lot of this for Javi, but The Crow has a lot of, the Crow film anyway, the 1984 film, has a lot of just, notoriety for many different, good and bad things, you could say. But, as I rewatched it, it's been, and by the way, before I even get started on the comic book here, it has been years since I've rewatched this. I wanted to rewatch the movie before before we did the show, but life is too busy. I could not do that. So anyway, I couldn't watch the movie again. I have it on DVD. I don't even know if it's on a 4K or not. I don't know if someone could tell me that at some point, but it'd be nice if this was on 4K. I'm assuming it is, but anyway. Yeah, so The Crow came out. I forgot it was based off a comic book when I picked up the DVD. And I was like, okay, yeah. And it wasn't until I watched the special features that I really truly understood what The Crow was all about. And The Crow is based upon the writer James O'Barr, his real life, kind of basically, trauma of losing his girlfriend at the time to a car wreck. And it's, obviously this was the Crow is an avenue for him to get his emotions out. And now what he did, let me tell you, it's a quite a what do you want to say? Quite the adventure into grieving, you could say. I would think. And one of the things that I was surprised about is just how just earnest he was, like as a as someone who is grieving, really went hardcore into the grieving process with this the story. And so one of the things that I was surprised about when I sorry, one second here, got a little bit of an echo. Get rid of this here. There we go. One of the things I was surprised about is just how earnest he was in the interviews, and every interview I have read and everything, that he's done. He's very earnest. You get, what you see is what you get with James O'Barr. And, it seems like he's had kind of a rough life. Reading, he was an orphan. He was raised in foster care. He went to he pretty much, got, it seems like he developed a lot of his artist stuff from the army, or as far as like, he did like manual stuff for the army, after he grew up. And it just seems like he had a kind of a hard life, and what's crazy is, he uses this tragedy of losing his girlfriend in a car wreck to make this comic book called The Crow. Now, what's really interesting is Caliber, it's only a 4-issue comic. And that's one of the things that I thought was fascinating about this, one of the things that fascinating about the story. It's only 4 issues. And with 4 issues, and they're probably around the, 20, 22 page mark. It's not, it's not very big. I mean, the when you buy the graphic novel, you can get this, by the way, this is free publicity on Amazon, but I got this beautiful Crow special edition comic book for only $13 on Amazon. Like this, let me tell you, people, this is a absolute steal at, $13 on Amazon. This is ridiculous. I saw the price on this, and actually, when Javi suggested, it was Javi who suggested us to do this. Again, he'll be on here shortly. I was like, let me see how easy it is to get the comic book, and holy crap, I was blown away how cheap it was and how nice this version is. So if you want to pick it up, go. I'll talk about it again at the end of the show. Go pick up the comic on Amazon, super cheap right now. But at any rate, but yeah, like the comic's only 4 issues, or the series is only 4 issues. And what's cool about it is that the comic is, it's not a very long comic. So you can, I busted this out here or there, just kind of reading it, periodically, and I couldn't put it down when I did. And I always hated putting it down, but it's not very big. I mean, this is only 4 issues, and there's a lot of supplementary material, like covers and things like that, like, different version covers of trade paperbacks from when like the comic was released, like, for trade back in 1994 or whatever. But yeah, I was amazed at how just short it was. And one of the great things about this comic that I thought was cool was how quick it is to read, and it's an efficient read. That's the first thing I got out of this from the get-go was this is not a comic that is, long-winded. It's very to the point. Very, very, very to the point. And I think that that's one thing that I'm very grateful for comics a lot of times is that when this is a medium that storytelling is condensed. And when you use that medium to its advantage, to I think its ultimate potential, this is what you'll get. And I think The Crow is a great example of that. Of 4 issues, not a huge page count, and it really utilizes every panel, page, and picture to the utmost importance, if you will. It's one of those things where you have to really take advantage of what you're doing with the story. Um, so anyway, we have the Crow comes out, and it is a cult classic from the comic book perspective. It gets a lot of notoriety. And I was listening to It Was a Shit Show podcast, which is a film podcast, which I probably one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. They did an episode I was just recently listened to, and apparently uh a screenwriter actually pitched like a revenge story similar to what the Crow did, and to Caliber Comics, and they said, "Oh, we already have a story like this." And the writer was like, what do you mean?" He goes, it's called The Crow." And they went, "Oh," apparently the person went, "Oh, that's weird," and kind of just was curious what it was like, because it kind of, it stopped him from doing his comic pitch or whatever for Caliber Comics. And he read it and was like blown away by it and said, "We have to make this into a movie," or something like that. And like, that's how The Crow got into fruition, was this writer getting, being blown away by the comic book to make the movie, which, again, listen to the podcast, get that whole story, which is interesting. But yeah, like the comic has like this very weird, like kind of cult status, if you will, before the movie comes out. And I'm curious. I wish I had someone, an elder statesman, if you will, from the comic book industry, or from the comic book world of that time, because I don't know her. Javi's here. This is great, Javi. I hope I'm not going to throw you under the bus here or put you on the spot, but you're here.
Under the bus.
Oh, yeah, not on the bus, but like put you on the spot is what I meant to say. I hope your play was eventful.
Yeah. We avoided any bodily fluids, so that was good.
Oh,
very appreciative of that.
What did you go see?
Evil Dead the musical.
Oh no, SH. Okay, so that was legit
for a high school production. Yeah,
it was a high school production.
Yeah, well, obviously, songs that use the F word get changed to heck, and sure, yeah. Bitch becomes witch most of the time. But yeah,
wait,
there are a lot of hecks being thrown around.
Or how about they throw the line, "Hey, she bitch, come get some."
No, they did not co-opt that one.
That'd be amazing. "Hey, she bitch."
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite lines. Army of Darkness is goated, in my opinion. So
it's it was a weird combination of all three movies. Like, they worked in some Army of Darkness lines into the play. Whoever wrote the play, yeah. So
was it an original screenplay?
No, there's I don't know if it was. I don't think it was Broadway. There was like an off-Broadway musical of it that, like, there's a cast recording of it on Apple Music. You can listen to the whole thing. But it's like maybe 10, 15 years ago that it was performed. So this is just like the high school version of it. But
nice.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being patient with this. I was floundering a little bit, it felt like, but maybe I was trying my best to be entertaining. But I definitely do better with someone else. Well, thank you. I was trying to explain. So basically, to keep you up to date here. So basically, I just talked about a little bit about the movie came out, and and basically, I want to throw it to you. I kind of forgot that it was based off a comic book.
What?
Yeah, like, well, not now, but like back in the day. Like, no,
Yeah.
but back in the day, like, because I was in '94, I was like in middle school.
Okay, that's
You know,
fair. I'll give you a pass.
yeah,
Did you
and
know
so
Men in
yeah,
Black was based on a comic book?
no, yeah, I knew that eventually, but like,
Yeah.
well, because what I was saying was I
A
bought
Marvel comic
the
book.
Malibu technically.
Well, but Marvel bought Malibu. So really a Disney
You
comic
can't
book.
you can't retroactively say it's a Marvel movie if it was made by Malibu before it was bought. Anyway, again, we're getting deep here.
Yeah.
No, but like no, I forgot. I think I knew it happened at the time, but I bought it on DVD like, oh yeah, The Crow, haha, and then I kind of forgot like, oh yeah, it's based off a comic book, duh. And I watched the special features.
Mhm.
I don't know if you ever watched the special features for The Crow.
Not in a while, but I have seen him, yeah.
James O'Barr really affects you when you listen to that guy. Like
Yeah.
he's like, this is not, I don't mean this like in a negative way. He's very intense,
Yeah.
like very serious.
And being from Texas, he's always at like they have this thing called the Greater Austin Comic Con, which is not in
Mhm.
Austin. It's like
Interesting.
it's like a town that's just north of us. And he's always like one of their listed guests, but I never see him at his table. So I've never met him. I've only gone like twice. And then he's supposed to be like whenever we've had like cons that were in Austin, like I've never seen him at his table then either. So I've never met him, but I've, heard that he is very not intense, but yeah, introvert, I guess.
Yeah,
Introvert.
serious. Very serious. And I didn't do a lot of like background stuff on him for the most part, but just besides what the movie's based, what inspired The Crow was his death of his girlfriend in a car wreck,
Yeah.
and that created the Crow comic book. So
Well, not even like a car wreck. It was, did you read the whatever anniversary edition?
well, because it was
Where it was like she was,
kind of,
it sounded like she was hit by a drunk driver, but she was like a pedestrian or something.
yeah,
Unless I'm
no, because
remembering it wrong.
because because the way and if you look at the form, and it could be wrong, but I want to say it was he blamed himself because he asked her to like
To drive
drive.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's when she got in a car wreck or something like that. So um but yeah, like, well, what's fascinating is that like there's this that he makes this comic book, right?
Yeah.
And he must have
As
had
a
some, he
catharsis
obviously,
for his tragedy.
right.
Yeah.
So what's fascinating to me is he makes it, and I was saying this before he came on. What's fascinating to me is that there's only 4 issues. This is a very short comic. This is not like a in-depth like
That's
watch
where
me 12 issues.
I've always been kind of confused because if you look at like the credits at the beginning of like the graphic novel, how it has like all these different dates. So like I've always wondered what the release was and if it was like an ash can and then they worked some of the ash can into like a first issue, and if there was like maybe published in something like a part of it was published somewhere else and then maybe compiled. Like I've never really understood the chronology of the publishing. And obviously it took him time, and that the edition that I read has, remastered art that he went back and touched up a
Redid,
little
yeah.
bit, and then like a new,
Is it this one?
yeah, that one, like a new
Yeah,
dream
this one's great.
sequence at the end and stuff. So
Yeah.
according to that, the hype on the back of the book, like that's the most complete definitive edition. But it doesn't read like like a traditional comic book in that sense, where you feel like the ebb and flow of here's the opening, the second act, and then the third act, and it ends on a cliffhanger to get you to buy the next issue. It doesn't feel like
No.
any traditional comic per se.
Yeah, and so before we get into the deep details of that, I want to get, I really, I was gonna end what I was saying about my history with The Crow. I had saw it was a big movie when it happened. I remember when it came out, it was a big deal. It didn't, obviously I think this movie would have been bigger if Brandon Lee hadn't died. Straight up. Like, I feel if Brandon Lee doesn't die, this movie's it's a huge, massive hit. I think the stigma around Brandon Lee dying, I remember being very like, ugh. You know what I mean? Like, it was almost like, why are we going to watch this? You know what I mean? Like, that's as a kid, that's the impression
Yeah.
that I got. Obviously I watched it. It's great. It's been a while since I've seen it. They have a 4K of this out yet?
Oh yeah, that was came out like a year or two ago. That's the last time I watched it. Was on
I
4K,
need
and it's glorious.
I need to pick it up. That's
Yeah.
on my Christmas list. But yeah, like there's one. It's one of those things where I'm just like, I I liked it, and it's like I said, I kind of forgot it existed as a comic book. So, but it was your idea to read this. So give me your
It
history with The
was.
Crow, Javi. It was.
It
It was
was. I
you.
thought it was
You said
yours.
you no, you told me, you said, hey, like, you said something like about like Brooke, your girl being into The
Yes.
Crow. I think that's what we
It's
talked. Yeah.
she has put it as one of her like top 3 favorite movies
No shit.
of all
Okay.
time. And
Okay.
so I bought her that edition that you're holding when we first started dating. I bought her that graphic novel or that trade paperback collection because I'm like, hey, here, this is the source
Yeah.
material.
Look,
And yeah,
understand my life.
yeah, comics aren't really her thing. Like, it's, and I just got to accept that because, when we got together, she had all 10 seasons of Smallville on DVD. So
Wow.
I got to take
Enough
my
said.
wins where I can, So
Yeah.
she hasn't read it yet. Okay. But I feel a little bit differently than you do about it because I
Okay.
think that Brandon dying gave it a notoriety similar to like Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight that made it kind of like a must see thing. And
Mm.
given when did this come out? Like 94,
Yeah.
the
For
movie? Like it's such a weird time for comic book films in general where they weren't
Oh yeah.
mainstream. So I feel like his passing gave it more attention because people were talking about like a possible curse because of his father dying, before his time and all that.
Yeah.
But I
Well,
never, I
go ahead,
never
sorry.
saw it in the theater. It wasn't until 95, maybe 96. I was working at a video store by that point, and my friend had it on Laserdisc. So that would have been
Nice.
the first time I saw it would have been on Laserdisc.
That's an OG, man. That's an
Yeah.
OG.
So, and then just being kind of into it for a while. And like I remember the comic, like one of the issues being on the wall. Like
Oh,
these are the rare comics, that we're selling. So you can just look, you can't touch.
right.
Unless you're really interested in buying it. And that was not my jam at the time, buying expensive comics. So I was just kind of like, oh, that's
Nor is it
really
mine
weird.
now.
Huh?
Nor is it mine now.
Yeah. So I knew that it was a comic beforehand because I'd seen like the cover, but I had no idea really what it was. And then after watching it on Laserdisc, I kind of got into it for a little bit. And I think I read like my brother-in-law's copy. He wasn't my brother-in-law at the time, but borrowed his copy and unfortunately watched like City of Angels, which was kind of
Oh,
like from a color
no.
palette perspective was kind of like the Batman and Robin to the original movie's Batman 89 vibe. And I watched like two more sequels. I watched a lot of the TV show. I have read some of the
There
comic.
was a TV show. I totally forgot there was a TV show.
Yeah,
Holy crap!
with
Holy crap!
Mark, was it Mark Dacascos? I think was Eric Draven. So it's kind of like a watered down version of the original graphic novel. Yeah, and then just like McFarlane got the license, like Image did, and they put out like a Crow comic, and then they were doing like similar to what he's done with Spawn. They're like, there's more than one Crow. It's not just Eric Draven, and like doing all these different,
Yeah.
like here's a Native American Crow, and here's a female Crow, and I don't even remember all the different variants they had.
Yeah, you're right.
Similar to the movies
wrote-
where they would have a different thing. I just remember like Ashley Wood doing like a couple covers, I think.
What about who's the writer on these books?
I don't remember. They were like mini series, so it was like all sorts of different people.
Weird.
Yeah,
I know. I was wondering. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say I was really embarrassing that there was like one year where I'm like, I'm gonna be the Crow. It was like 1999, 2000.
Hey.
I had like a black trench coat. Hey, Eric, and put white face paint on, but I didn't have like a wig or anything, so I just had short cropped black hair, and it was just weird. So it's a Halloween best left forgotten. I had the first McFarlane action figure too, with that great pose from the poster, and I think he came with like a guitar, and like the Crow would sit on his shoulder. Yeah, I definitely listened to The Cure and the soundtrack while I was reading it again, whatever it was last week, the week before.
The Cure is goated, by the way. It's one of my favorite bands.
Oh yeah.
No, we will talk about the music because I have a funny thing to talk about the music here before we leave. So you read the comic. So you're the comic right after the movie. What was your and you're into comics. I know you're an OG like me, because obviously The Crow is an artsy, non-mainstream comic, and I mean that all the best ways possible.
Yeah.
What was it like? Because I reading it now, I'm more prepared for it. I would not be prepared to read this as a kid. This would F me up because it's something I wasn't prepared for.
Well,
like not the content, but I'm used to mainstream Marvel comic books, right?
Yeah.
Like straight up, like this would be like, what the hell? Like not the violence, but it's the imagery.
Yeah.
It's so evocative that would have been like messed me up. Like it would have messed me. It would have messed me up in a way that's probably good. It would have really challenged me. Yes. What was it like reading? You're older than I am, so what was it like reading it for you? Go ahead.
I would have been like 18, 19 when I read it, and still very much in more of like my clean lines art style, like.
Exactly. Yeah.
Aparo and like Tom Grummett, like those were artists that I really responded to. And this, just from like an art perspective, it was very visceral and pushed boundaries, and it wasn't necessarily always your traditional, 9-panel grid. Although there is like one or two pages that do that, but there's a lot of inky. I didn't really read a lot of black and white comics then either. I read it before Batman Black and White was a thing. So, I read it before I read Sin City even. So it definitely gave it a different vibe and feel, and probably was one of the first indie comics I ever really read. And it has like a different pulse to it than anything I had read at the time. And even, knowing it now, because this is probably like my third or fourth time reading the original. Oh man, that image is just
this F's me up every time, man. Oh my god, I don't mean to. I just want you to. It's really quickly, people. I just want you to admire something like this. This is so fucking good. Like not what's happening, but the layout, the detail, and what the impression that the writer and the artist is trying to convey is so goddamn brilliant. It's like,
Yeah.
I just want to say, when I read this page, this is early on in the book too, by the way. It was this page, Javi, that made me go, "Oh shit!"
Yeah.
Like, I'm not. I don't think I'm ready or not ready. What's what I was thinking? What I was thinking. I was thinking to myself, why did I not read this sooner? Is the first thing that came to me when I got to. I mean, I was digging what I was reading. When I got to this page, Javi, I was like, "What was I thinking?" But continue about your experience reading it for the first time.
Yeah, it was very stark and challenging, I guess, because I hadn't really.
Great word. Great
Yeah,
word.
it wasn't something that it was a little bit out of my comfort zone. And there's like that horses feels really detailed and realistic to me. And then you go to like that page you just showed where it's a little more simplistic and it's not like that. There's like a 3D to that. And then you go to this and it feels more flat by comparison.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it was just, I didn't really have a lot to compare it to back then because of the nature of comics and graphic novels at the time, or trade paperbacks, however you want to call them. Like they didn't look like this book looked. The closest
No.
thing that I could compare it to would be like the Dark Knight Returns, which had those, wonderful colors by Lynn Varley, or maybe some other, graphic novel that was painted like Batman Night Cries or something like that, where it just
Yeah.
didn't look like your typical thing. But even like, when I read it 2 weeks ago, like it's hard to separate knowing the tragedy that inspired it and the tragedy that came out of trying to adapt it for the big screen. Like it's hard to, at least I find it hard to separate that knowledge from reading the experience because it just feels like such an intrinsic part, like it's in the ink of that book. And like I said, this wasn't my first time reading it. And after I finished reading it the other night, again, it's like I needed a palate cleanser. I had to put on Superman to like just kind of wipe the slate clean because I didn't want to go to bed feeling all just not bleak, but I mean, it's really heavy. Like you feel, at least I do, like I feel the loss in that when I read this book.
Bro. Bro.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to say you couldn't. I don't think I could have said it any better than what you said. You said the word challenging.
Yeah.
And that is probably the best way to describe The Crow in a positive manner. And I mean that 1000% because it really challenges you as a reader to really look at the darkness that grief can cause.
Yeah.
And to the extent of what one person, if they had the power to the angel to give him, because that to me, and again, not spoiling much, that to me is one of the best parts of the book is the very end
Yeah.
with very when like James O'Barr basically is admitting like, yo, this is what I'm dealing with, right? Like
Yeah.
essentially what he's it's again, I don't want, I try not to spoil these things for people if you're first time coming to the show. Again, like, subscribe, etc. When you talked about making this book, because you did, it was, maybe it was, I'm pretty sure you pretty much was like, we should do The Crow or something like that. And I was like, oh, dude,
Yeah.
what the
I
hell?
mean, I definitely remember being on board for doing it when we talked about like Halloween stuff.
And
I
because
just don't remember if I was the inception of it though.
you are.
Okay.
I'm giving you all credit. All right. Just
Okay.
take it, damn
I'll
it. Just
take it. I'll take
take my
it.
credit, Javi. Just take it, God damn it. So you're a good friend. Just take my positivity. No, when you brought it up though, I was like, oh dude, I that's a brilliant thing. I have never read it. And I started thinking to myself,
Wait, you never
why
read
haven't
it
I have never read it?
until this month?
Yes.
Holy shit.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. And
Okay.
so, bro,
I just
I
assumed
got
you had.
No, never
Yeah.
assume. Never
Yeah,
assume anything. And that's a valuable lesson for everyone out there. I promise you. Hobby. And now, granted, The Crow has been one of those comics I just kind of forget about. Like life happens, and you're just and
Yeah.
I love mainstream Marvel comics and DC comics and what have you. So it's like there's there's so many independent works out there, like by Fantagraphics or whatever. I need to read them. In fact, next week, Fantagraphics comic is also on the market, or we'll be talking about with my wife.
Nice.
More on that later. Yeah, very excited about that. But you kind of just forget about the stuff because I love to have fun. So, years of reading different kinds of comics, as the last, I'd say 5, 6 years where I've really tried to broaden myself as much as possible. Because as a music person and loving independent and underground rock music or music in general, as well as mainstream stuff. I love mainstream. I'm not trying to be like, oh, listen to underground. Like, no, I listen to everything. But like, I primarily partake a lot more into underground, like you could say underground, or where it's even it's not a common named band or music or musician, but I digress.
Yeah.
But like I wanted to broaden myself more with comic books too, with my like my music. So in the last 5, 6 years I've really tried to like broaden that. And The Crow is just kind of one I just kind of forgot about. And when you brought it up, I was like, okay, I need to check this out. And Amazon has it for like only $13. I was like, this is an easy buy. Easy. I was, I was prepared to like, buy digitally. But I'm like, let's just see what it's like in Amazon. I was like, $13. I couldn't hit buy fast enough. Picked it up. A beautiful, and I was saying this before you came on the show, a beautiful copy. This is just gorgeous.
Yeah. No, that's a great addition.
Yeah. Great. And it's not, again, I selfishly was like, well, it's not very long either. This is great. So, whatever. But Javi, when I started reading this, night was winding down. Lulu was about to go to bed. She's like watching some like Bluey or something like that on the TV, and I was in my little reading corner. I'm like, I'm just gonna pop on the Crow, comic and just kind of hang out, just wind the night down while Blue's watching Bluey on the other. I'm not reading this by her. She's on the other side of the couch. I'm like, we have like a sectional, so I'm like on one end and she's on like the other end. So I'm not like by the light. So like, I'm not showcasing this to my kid yet. But I read the first couple of pages and I texted my buddies and we're in a comic book club. It's not part of the binge, but I go, guys, I'm only a few pages in, but this is pretty fucking awesome, and I took to it right away. And I gotta say, man, I love this book. I immediately loved it. And and life is busy, so I was reading it at work here or there, and I could not put it down. I tried to get into as much as I could when I could, and I blew through it, not super fast, but I got through it, and I just was like, and I gotta tell you, this is such a comic book that it feels like there's no like acts here, by the way. Like this is not a traditional, and this is why I wanted to like watch the movie before we did this, but I never had a chance to. This is not a traditional story structure, in my opinion. Like there is no, I mean, it is and it isn't, right? But there is no traditional like antagonist. The hero never really has, and this is not really a spoiler alert, there's no real fear of the hero like dying or like something happening to him.
Yeah.
Like it's purely I'm going to destroy every person that did my girlfriend or fiance wrong. And it is just and really the resolution is of Eric himself, right?
Yeah.
The whole total of the story. And that in and of itself, Javi, is brilliant because it's almost like the revenge story is the afterthought of the entire like main story, which is about Eric and dealing with how this person moves on, like theoretically from the next life or into, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And that was just like the go ahead.
Oh, just the parrot what you're saying, like the way the flashbacks are woven into the story, because you don't really
Mhm.
know. It's not like you see them get engaged and then paint the house and then
Yeah.
they get killed and then he comes back. Like it's very dreamlike, And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
as you go on that journey, the more invested you get in their relationship and the more it feels weird to say it like this. Like the further you get in the book, the more it hurts.
No. Yeah.
So when you get to the end, like, you're along for that ride too. Like you want that revenge, you want that justice, and you want him to find some modicum of peace,
Yeah.
for what he's lost. And it's, I mean, when you see the act, like it's horrible. Like I don't remember feeling that way about it when I like the same way when I saw the movie. Like it doesn't strike me on the same level as the book. Not that they didn't do a great job with the movie, but um the movie to my recollection isn't quite as structured like this is. It's similar, but they movie it up, and like Officer Albrecht is kind of a composite of himself and Captain Hook from the book. Not
Mm-hmm.
the Peter Pan guy, but there's you got to condense some things for a movie, but I think they did a
Yeah.
really good job with that. But that just the way that, like I was saying, like how you get a better sense of his relationship with Shelley as you go on. And it's very, and part of it I think was because I was tired. I was only going to read like maybe half of it and then go to bed, but just got so engrossed in it that I wound up staying up really, really late and reading it all in one sitting. And you just get sucked into it.
Andreas, what's up, man? Yeah, dude, you're not wrong. Like there's so much detail in the themes
Yeah.
of what James O'Barr. It really is. I don't know, and this is where I don't know if it was intentional. And this is not. I'm not trying to be like a dickwad when I say this, but like I don't know if James O'Barr like if if everything was intentional the way he intended it. Like because it feels like he just wanted. It was like you said, a catharsis for his own grief, and that's what those 4 issues are. But it's like I don't know if he intentionally made it to be like, I just want it to be a revenge story. And I don't want to have Eric have any problems. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that was intentional or he's just like, I just want, you know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
don't know. And it's just like, it opens a perfect storm of like, it all actually thematically works out perfectly because like, even though you can have your perfect revenge story, it's not going to give you like fulfillment. And that's a tired trope, you could say, but the way he does it in this is effing brilliant
Yeah.
because you feel you want the revenge to happen, and when it happens you're like, oh, okay, what's next, right?
Yeah.
And but what's next is the most important part of the story. That's why in these beautiful images that he conjures up, you know, like this, all lead up to the climax, if you will, right?
Yeah.
And that is like, I don't, again, it has to be intentional, but it almost feels like it's not some ways. It almost feels like he kind of this happily landed into it. And go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no. I was just gonna say, like, the way that it is too, like it's kind of the victim of its own success, or just
Mm,
American comics being American comics. Like it became like this huge cult hit, and then it kind of gets watered down with each successive iteration. You know, like
Yeah.
like Batman's a narrative that will go on forever. But you know, you get something like this where they just kind of like, well, okay, Eric's story is done. Like
Yeah.
you can't bring him back because it's over. Like, what are you going to do? Like, oh well, I found out in the afterlife that Shelley was pregnant, and now I've got to, avenge myself of, whoever. There's some other guy. You can't like Sandman in, like how Sandman killed Uncle Ben in Spider-Man 3. Like, you can't do that and make a
I
sequel.
never thought you'd
So,
bring Spider-Man 3 into this conversation.
well,
This is really blowing my mind right now.
but like everyone who followed in his footsteps, like, all talented people, but there's, it's such a personal work that it doesn't quite resonate in the same way. Like it can't.
Yeah.
It's one of those
No.
things that kind of should have just stayed the way it was. But, as corporations, they want to make a profit. And as fans, if we love something, we want to get more of it. That's the reason why we're on issue 1102 of Detective Comics, and why we have how many different Star Trek shows and Star Wars shows and movies, and we just for American comics, like, we're used to these things going on ad infinitum.
Yeah.
So damn, man, that cover goes hard.
So reading this, Javi, and I almost wanted to call it this on the title of the show, but we're doing that for next week, so I didn't want to do double dip, and it's been a while since I did one of these shows. This is 1000% a comic book masterpiece. 1000%. Like, if you're out there and you love comic books and you haven't read The Crow, homie, get out there and read this comic ASAP, because this is a must read. If you love the medium of comics and sequential art, I think The Crow is a quintessential story you have to read. You have to read it.
Yeah.
I'm making my wife read this, actually.
Nice.
She loves comics in the medium, and especially like artsy, again, I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just, it's an artful, it really, because, one thing I said before you came on is that he utilizes everything so beautifully. Like, every page is not wasted. Every panel is not wasted. Everything is used, is that condensed storytelling of comic books is used to the best degree possible with this comic book. And it's brilliant. It's effing brilliant. Like, I am so glad that you brought this up to me, because I would never probably have read it. And because I was not, because I didn't want to read it, it's forgot. And now I'm like, The Crow's goated straight up. Like, it's fucking great. And I'm so glad I read it. I'm so glad that I own this copy, this great version now. That's why I'm telling people, go read this comic, man. This is a must read. The best part is, like you said, it's heavy. It challenges you. It's not long. It's 4 issues. You read it, you're like, God damn. It impacts you.
I'm trying to distinguish the two stories now. When did they get killed in the comic? Like, it's not, because in the movie it's, Devil's Night. It's like Halloween, which is probably, now that I'm thinking about it, that's probably why I thought of it in the first place. Like, oh, this is a Halloween book. But I don't think that correlation, I don't think the whole Devil's Night Halloween thing is a part of the comic. You would think I could remember 2 weeks ago, but I've read a lot of books since
I don't think so. I think it's just a random night. So, so really quick before we get out of here, I want to mention this really quick, which you'll laugh. Okay. So, for those who don't know, I'm a big music person. Again, love independent music. I actually don't know the soundtrack that well, to be honest, which is funny, right? Like, I've heard some of it, like, back in the day, but The Cure is one of my favorite bands. And I'm going through reading the thing, reading the comic book, and I love reading James O'Barr's like little side notes, whatever.
Yeah.
He actually at one point gives a shout out to the music he listened to while
Yes.
making The Crow.
Yeah. Joy Division.
Okay. Yes. Now, I just for the record, I've heard of Comsat Angels, very more recently. Joy Division, one of my favorite bands of all time. Freaking love Joy Division, and Unknown Pleasures, Closer. Those are goated. Still is like a compilation kind of things of random like live versions and whatnot. Joy Division, amazing. Jim Carroll. I for the record, do you know anything about Jim Carroll?
No, I don't think I do.
So when he put this name here, I went, that's interesting. I don't know who this is. So I went on Spotify. It's like new wave punk rock. Like I'm like, okay, it's pretty rad. I'm like, who? I've never heard this guy before. Like, what the hell, dude? Are you ready for hear this? Have you ever heard of a movie called Okay, have you ever heard of the movie or the book The Basketball Diaries?
Yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio.
It's him.
Okay.
I was like, what? And this guy is so the whole Basketball Diaries, which if you watch that movie is pretty messed up. It's his memoirs, and he eventually gets kicked off of heroin, befriends Patti Smith, the rocker, Patti Smith, not the 80s one, everyone, the 70s one, the one that whatever. So there's two Patti Smiths, not the Y, the I. So he befriends her, and like she convinces him, he's like a spoken word, a poet too. She convinces him to start a band, which is the Jim Carroll band, not just Jim Carroll. And those are albums that he listened to, right? I'm like, holy crap, which that was a mind-blowing thing for me. I was like, holy crap, I didn't even knew this existed. So that was an amazing rabbit hole. Big Black, Steve Albini, fucking legend. Shellac. I know Big Black. Yeah, they're goated. Like Steve Albini is a fucking icon, and he's the lead singer of Big Black. And if you don't know Big Black, get out there and go check out Big Black and Shellac. And just by the way, do you know who also Steve Albini is? He's the guy who produced In Utero. Enough said. So yeah. American Music Club. That's a deep cut where I was like, okay, like he actually thanks the lead singer Mark Etzel independently, which I thought was interesting. American Music Club, kind of a somber, not like it's not like punk or anything like that. It's more of like almost Americana, like straight up like independent rock stuff. Not for everyone, but I love it. It's super solid stuff. I like it. Definitely depressing. Game Theory was the first time I ever heard of this band, and definitely like what I heard of them when I checked more of them out. Pitch Shifter, not really my thing. Checked it out. The Sound, great UK punk rock. This was the bottom one was the one that blew my mind here actually, which it's a bummer. I can't. Let me eliminate my little bottom part here, but dude, he put in codeine, and which that blew my mind, because if you put codeine, freaking Frigid Stars and White Birch as influences, you're a goddamn ball knower, because codeine is, I think, brilliant. Slow core, just like if you know codeine, you're a G. That's all I gotta say, because I was like, whoa, that's pretty amazing. I love codeine. And that's a very unknown band that like only real independent rockers are going to know. And I was like, God damn, this guy rocked codeine right in The Crow. Holy shit. Okay. And then obviously you move on to you have The Cure, Faith, 17 Seconds. Not my favorite Cure albums, but Pornography. If I were to pick one Cure album, or maybe two Cure albums, the first one I would say is maybe Disintegration. A little on the nose, but whatever. But I was like, okay, like The Cure, 17 Seconds, Faith, that seems, Disintegration would have been one I would have guessed. But yeah, next one, Pornography. Hell yeah. Pornography is goated. That is like, to me, the first real Cure album, because the earlier albums are good. They're fine. But Pornography is where I feel Robert Smith really hits the Cure, because if you're a Cure fan, the trilogy is Pornography, Disintegration, and Blood Flowers. If you're a Cure fan, that's the trilogy. And Blood Flower, I love Blood Flowers to death. It's amazing. Disintegration, one of my favorite albums of all time. Pornography is 1000% the Cure. Like, if you want to listen to the Pornography, the Cure is what or the Crow is what you get. Like, that is 1000%. And I think it's awesome that the Cure, they do a song for the Crow. Like, they do an original song. That must have been a recommendation or a request from the from him himself, because the Cure is goated. Obviously, they're one of the best of all time. Pornography is 1000% what I get from here. So, um, the cute. That's a good. I like that. The Smiths are one of my favorite bands too. I love the Smiths, but the Cure, they probably put out way too much material, to be honest. But when they put out something that hits, it fucking hits, which is like Pornography, etc. So,
Paul,
do you
I
know?
wanted to ask you,
Go
like
ahead.
Cookie Monster said in the comments about writers
Oh,
sharing
what's
their
up, Lauren?
playlists. Can you think
Lauren
of
to me.
any other examples of people who've done that? Like, I know for me, when I was reading Scott Pilgrim as it came out, Brian Lee O'Malley would include like musical influences in the back of the graphic novel, the little mini graphic novels that he did. But obviously this as well. But like, can you think of anyone else who did like playlists? Trying to think if
You,
Bendis did at one point. I think he
maybe
might.
I don't. Not very many people do, and I'm
Yeah.
with her, with Cookie Monster here. Like, more people need to do it, because I love nothing as a musician myself, and someone who writes music and loves listening to new music and whatnot. Like, when I eventually do write comics and publish my independent works, whenever that will happen, when I'm 80 years old, I 1000% listen to music, and listen to stuff that gets totally into my zone, if you will. So, um yeah, I wish they did. And it's funny, Cookie Monster, I was gonna say, I almost was gonna ask, are you a fan of The Crow? Like, I almost wanted you on the show, but I was like, I don't want to bug you, because I know you're busy and all that stuff. So, but I was gonna ask you, like, are you a Crow? Did you read the Crow comic? I didn't know if you had or not. So it seemed like it'd be up your alley. Um, so I'm just curious, if you're still watching, hit me up. If you're not watching, you watch later in the comments too. So,
Happy belated birthday.
Andreas, there's no way you just turned 20. I thought you were at least 21. Shut up. Shut up. Andreas he's a good kid. He's a good kid. Talented artist too. Um, so yeah, wrapping this up. Yeah, the music thing real quick. I thought that was so rad when
Yeah.
he, like, dude. But I gotta tell you, I lost my shit when he put coding. I was like, what the hell? Like, I was never expecting to see coding on there. Coding is, and again, if you, it's an acquired taste, y'all. If you like slow halftime music, where it's like, we're not talking about like you strum one chord, let it ring out, and then like another one, it's like, it's like, oh, I love that shit, man. Oh my god. So okay, all right. Hold on a second. I meant to put it here. Um, dude, I feel stupid now. I should have asked you this. God damn it, I feel dumb now.
You ruined the
Here's what
show, Paul.
happens. I ruined the show. I should have got Cookie Monster on the show. I could have asked her. I was like, I don't want to bug her. I just don't want to be that annoying person. Like, get on my show, please. I do have other shows in mind for you, but we've talked about before. But I was like, I don't. To be honest, I almost want to be insulting, be like, you're semi-goth, I should ask you if you watched The Crow, right? I don't want to be like that person, right? To be like, assume like the semi-goth person or the goth person would be maybe into freaking The Crow. But yeah, like The Crow's freaking amazing. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. It stands to reason that you like The Crow because it's good reason because it's goated 1000%. So yeah, I'm making my wife read it tonight. So or not tonight, but this week. So I'm definitely stoked on that. Yeah, the music thing was so cool. I thought that was rad. And so yeah, that was really cool. There was one last music thing real quick. There was one thing where let's see here.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Javi. You're good. Go ahead. Yeah, I know. I thought it might be obvious, but you don't want to be that person to be like, well, whatever, But yeah, next time I'll trust my instincts on this one because I really wanted someone on here, but Javi, I think you would love that on the show. But yeah, the one music thing I will say is that Kieran Gillen on Twitter, he posted a playlist of like what he writes for for comics every once in a while, I think. And he posted one for Dr. Aphra, the Star Wars character, and he put like Mudhoney, which if you know music and Mudhoney, that's like an OG grunge band from like a predecessor or before a godfather of grunge, if you will. I would say they were a grunge band. Godfather of grunge means they weren't grunge, but they were like a grunge band. And I was like,
proto grunge.
Oh, dude, what's that?
Like proto grunge.
Yeah, but they weren't proto grunge. They were grunge. They were part of the grunge scene. Like they were part of they were before Nirvana and they're on Sub Pop Records and all that shite. They're like legends in Seattle. But anyway, yeah, Kieran Gillen posted like a bunch of songs and Mudhoney was on there, and I responded to it. I went, man, I'm pretty impressed you're putting Mudhoney on a Dr. Aphra playlist. And he's like, in response goes, he wrote to me and said, a very grungy girl, our Dr. Aphra. I was like, fair. So anyway, yeah, I'm with you. More people post your music, what you write to. But yeah, wrapping up, Crow, goated. One of the best of all time, So if you haven't, go freaking read this comic. It's goddamn amazing. So, next week I tease this. Speaking of my wife, I'm bringing my wife on the show with her best friend to talk about the comic book called My Favorite Things Are Monsters. And have you ever heard that comic ever, Javi?
Yes, because you told me a month or two ago when we were talking about what we were doing in October. But prior to that conversation, no.
Okay, it's my favorite things is monsters, not our monsters. You get the drift. It's a title. It's a fanographic comic book. It is the title for next week's show is a comic book masterpiece. Because there's two parts. I've only read part one, but part one is incredible. It is a sight to behold. I'm gonna let them kind of explain it because it's nuts. It's amazing. So go check it, and it fits in to the Halloween aesthetic. Go check out next week's episode. Support the independent comic book stuff because it's amazing. Like go check out the comic book. It is a comic that even if you don't like the story, it's a very loose story, I would say, but like the art alone is worth picking up. So yeah, go check us out next week. Go support my wife and her friend as they get on the show, which I'm really excited to have. My wife Morgan comes on every once in a while. So anyway, yeah, man. Halloween. I love Halloween. I wish I had more time. Lulu's afraid of everything.
Oh,
so I can't watch. Yeah, I can't watch anything. I can't even watch Monster Squad. I'm so bummed. I'm like, it's not watch Monster Squad.
It'll
God damn
come
it.
in time, man. It'll come in
I
time.
I know. So anyway, yeah, Javi, anything you want to talk, promote about right now?
Oh, I mean, all the things, all the things. Primarily, I guess, batman-on-film.com. I am hosting a series within a series called Batman Begins Chapter by Chapter, where myself and the different guests each week break down the equivalent of like an old school DVD chapter of the movie. So usually about 10 minutes a piece. We're just kind of talking about it, analyzing it, because it is still the 20th anniversary of that movie. And what else do I have going on, Paul? Oh, the 007 files. We have some episodes coming up, but most recently we interviewed Neil S. Bulk, who is a music producer and has brought you expanded soundtracks like the recently released Thunderball, Spider-Man, Batman 89, Star Trek 2, so many. If it's like a sci-fi or genre movie that's had like a re-release, he's probably had his fingers on getting into you. So he's an awesome dude, and that was a lot of fun to talk to him about James Bond in general, Thunderball in specific, and music. So head over to the 007 Files, either podcast or our YouTube channel, and you can check it out there.
Right on.
And then, of course, Nights Never Die on the Comic Binge.
Well, of course, yeah, and whatever shows I can convince you to come on for, So next month, yeah, time.
I don't need convincing. It's time permitting.
I know. I just you know what I say.
Yeah.
But next month I'm hoping to Nights Never Die, obviously, but I'm hoping to get some cool episodes coming up. I don't want to spoil it. I may have for me a potentially a couple returning guests, a number of returning guests that I can't wait to have in the next couple months. One is a new guest that I watch his podcast on the reg. It's not comic book related at all. And he agreed to come on the show, which I was like, what the hell? Which I'm very excited about. It's only someone like me that'll be excited about this, but let's just say it's football related, which I was very excited about. So I'm very excited to get this person on. So we'll see what happens. But like the show, subscribe. Next week, my favorite things is monsters. Yeah, it's gonna be a great show next week. For everyone who's already subscribed, thanks a lot. Javi, do you want to take us out since Chris isn't here?
Read more comics.
Bye-bye.